Suddenly I was standing barefoot on damp sand. I could feel each grain between my toes. Before me flowed a river miles wide. Behind me were stabilized dunes with patches of grass in them, willow and alder trees, intermittently spaced along the river's edge. I looked for the sun. Nothing, yet everything was lit by a brilliant light. Welcome to Let's Lift the Veil. In this video, you'll hear a powerful near-death experience testimony, shared with raw honesty and sincerity. A story where the line between life and the beyond becomes thinner than a breath. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like if it resonates with you. It helps us spread these meaningful testimonies and grow a community seeking to understand the unseen. Let's begin. Hello, I prefer to stay anonymous. You can just call me Barbara. What I'm about to share really happened to me back on August 10, 1967, when I was just a reckless young woman. It wasn't exactly pleasant in the usual sense, nor was it traumatic. It was something else. Something that shifted the course of my life forever. That day, I was jumping off a small dam into the Russian River in California. Older boys were doing it and it looked thrilling. I wanted that rush too. My first jumps went fine, but on the last one I miscalculated. I fell short right under the cascade. I was tumbled and pushed. The pressure pinned me down flat to the bottom. I couldn't break free. I was not strong enough. I held my breath and thought to myself, this is it. I am going to die. The moment I drew water into my lungs burned. One thought flashed through me. So this is dying. It's as easy as a breath between here and there, and then everything sped up. My life flashed before my eyes in a split second, like a deck of cards riffled at high speed. All of my life moments, including the inconsequential moments, as well as important instances. All of it, they all came flooding through. From the red canvas of my tennis shoes, to the wind and smell of the oak trees I loved to climb. Everything I experienced was shown frame by frame. Then I felt filaments pulling from the center of my chest. I went forward like a kite of a string. Whoosh! I was drawn through a tunnel, a wormhole of light. I was moving fast like a bottle rocket toward a bright light at the end of the tunnel. Suddenly I was standing barefoot on damp sand. I could feel each grain between my toes. Before me flowed a river miles wide. Behind me were stabilized dunes with patches of grass in them, willow and alder trees, intermittently spaced along the river's edge. I looked for the sun. Nothing, yet everything was lit by a brilliant light. I then looked across the river to see such an amazing world of mountains, trees, waterfalls, exotic flowers. It was like our own world, but on some extraordinary level. The greens were greener, the smells sharper, the air alive. There was so much life with colors, textures, light and smells that were all in a state of absolute perfection and abundance. Even my legally blind eyes saw with perfect clarity here. I felt total peace, absolute safety, and an indescribable certainty. I was deeply loved. I was no longer in conflict with nature. Then suddenly I felt those same filaments pulling again, this time between my shoulder blades. Whoosh! Back through the tunnel, and I woke up at the river's edge. 2 young men had jumped into the water, found me and pulled me out. I was breathing again. I was back, but something inside me was forever changed. My life, behind the veil. After this experience, my life was never the same. First, I had to recover physically, but soon, my view of the world shifted. I had been lukewarm about religion, but now I became deeply spiritual. It shows in my art, my teaching, and my work with nature. I became a botanist, wildlife biologist, ornithologist, wetland ecologist. I sometimes joke that I'm training for my future job as an herbalist in heaven. But it's also true, I discovered a calling. I even re-experienced that place at my grandmother's death, in June 1989 at 11:26 a.m. We literally shared the crossing. As I lay on the couch that day, images began to flow into my mind. The creak of the kitchen, metal cabinet door at my grandmother's house would creak every time she went to open it. I saw a bare spot on the carpet inside her front door, and saw her watering pansies in her backyard. I remember telling my partner that I thought I was dying, since it appeared that my life was beginning to flash before my eyes, like in the NDE when I was young. I began to look more closely at the images flashing through my brain. Although they were familiar, I could recognize that they were not particularly mine. I think these pictures belonged to my grandmother. Immediately after that, I felt pulled by my solar plexus filaments into the wormhole and toward the light. It all looked and felt exactly like what had happened before. I felt calm and curious, but was wondering what was happening. I landed with my feet in wet river sand, barefoot again. Right back where I had visited before. Whoa! Was the only thought that came to mind. My senses were operating at a high level of sensitivity. The color of blue in the sky was robin's egg blue, and it was so crisp and clear. The sky was the bluest of all blues. I could see each grain of the sand with such clarity. I could smell the acrid scent of leaves, and saw small debris floating in the water. I heard the breeze rustle through the grass on the dune, as clear as sandpaper rubbing against a chalkboard. Everything seemed alive, full of the energy of life, bursting the seams in abundance, wellness and potency. Again I was facing the river. I heard heavy sobbing off to my right, and saw my grandmother crumpled on the ground in the sand at the river's edge. I knew what was wrong. She had feared water all her life. I held her, tried to comfort her. She was inconsolable and continued to weep. I placed my arm around her shoulders and whispered to her, "The water is not deep, Grandma. It's only an illusion. It barely comes up to your ankles." She continued to weep. Then a young man appeared. He was about the age of 20 and came running over the dunes toward us. He had on long swimming trunks with a towel over his shoulder. He stopped short when he saw us and asked if he could help. I told him the problem. He placed his hand on her right shoulder and asked if it was true that she was afraid of the water. She looked at him and said, "Yes." He returned her gaze and said,
"Camille, I'm here to help you. Let's do this together."
She looked at him again, and you could see wonder ripple across her face.
"Clinton?"
she asked.
"Yes."
He replied. It turned out to be my grandfather. Her husband is a young man and her only love. He helped her up off the ground, brushed her off, and they both stepped into the river together. At that moment, I was jerked back through the wormhole by the filaments between my shoulder blades. I woke up on the couch and told my partner all about it. The next day I learned she had died at exactly the time of my vision. Since then, I've become far more empathic. I sense people's emotions and truth instantly, sometimes even ease their suffering. It's a gift I didn't have before. When I tell this story, reactions vary. I'm faced with skepticism, silence, and wonder. At my grandmother's wake, my own mother smacked the table and said,
"Hot damn. I knew someone would catch the crossing. In our family, someone always catches the crossing."
I never asked her what she meant, but it sounded like an old tradition. She sure sounded familiar with other stories in her own family. I have not had this occur again, but I can see the landscape and the situation clearly in my memory as if it were yesterday. Today I no longer fear death. I firmly believe in the afterlife. I see earthly life as profoundly meaningful, full of challenges but also opportunities to love. And even though I'm anonymous here, I hope my testimony gives others some hope and curiosity about the mystery. Thank you for watching this testimony all the way through. Stories like these remind us how precious and mysterious life truly is. If this experience resonated with you, feel free to leave a comment sharing your thoughts, your own story, or even your questions. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to support the channel and help others discover these powerful accounts. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you soon for another journey beyond the veil.